So you're getting your orange cert. This cert will give you access to our MIG welder, our plasma cutter, and our angle grinder. In this video, we'll go over PPE and safety precautions, the setup, usage, and housekeeping in order for you to gain access to the Orange Room and be able to use our equipment safely and effectively.
Now we're going to talk about the proper PPE for welding. The first thing you want to make sure you have on is long pants without any holes or tears and closed-toed shoes. The next pieces of PPE are in the welding area. Make sure that you get a good pair of gloves without any holes so that you don't burn yourself later. Also, make sure you get a pair of welding sleeves, also to protect your clothing and yourself from burns. Probably the most important piece of PPE is the welding mask itself. The welding masks we have in this shop have a couple of features that allow them to be adjusted to the user. The first is the adjustment knob back here. This can go in and out to adjust to the size of the head of the user. On the side of the mask is a darkness knob that controls how dark the mask gets when you strike an arc. When you're ready to weld, your PPE should look like what I'm wearing. Remember that when you're wearing the welding mask, you do not need safety glasses underneath. Under no condition should synthetic fibers be worn in the Orange Room. They can catch fire and lead to serious burns and injury. You should also not wear any form of jewelry, as it can connect to the metal tables and cause serious electric shock. The safest materials to wear in the Orange Room are leather, wool, and cotton, such as jeans and t-shirts. The PPE for plasma cutting is the same as welding. When you come into the welding area, the machine should look like this. You may find it easier to set up your machines with parts of your PPE off, such as your gloves, so that you can use your hands better. If you're not going to wear the mask while setting up, make sure to have your safety glasses on. The first thing you're going to want to do is plug both machines in. After plugging in both machines, turn on the air supply for the plasma cutter. The valve for the air supply is over here. It's currently in the off position. To turn it on, turn the lever towards you. You can test the air supply by using this valve here. You should hear a release of air. The next step in setting up the welder is to turn on your shielding gas. Come over to the bottle in the corner and open the valve on the top all the way. When it stops, turn it back a half turn. Then use the knob on the front to adjust your gas flow to 10 liters per minute. Once this is done, you can turn on the machines using the switches on the back. You should hear a fan come on for the welder. To turn on the ventilation hood above the welding area, come over to the switch on the column. Press the green start button. This should ensure that any hazardous gases are taken out of the shop. The ground clamps for both the welder and the plasma cutter are used to complete the circuit between the workpiece and the machine. The ground clamp for the plasma cutter can be seen here. The ground clamp for the MIG welder can be seen here. Since this steel table is conductive, the clamps can remain clamped to the table and complete a circuit with a bare metal workpiece. The two parameters you can adjust on the welder are the wire feed, which is adjusted using this knob, and the voltage, which is adjusted using this knob. To set the wire feed on the welder, use the two knobs in the front. If you are new to welding, the best option is to use the auto set feature. Turn the knob to .03. You should see the blue light come on. Then use one of these metal thickness gauges to set your thickness using this knob. If you have welded before and know how to set the machine manually, you can use these knobs to do so. The two parameters you can adjust on the plasma cutter are the amperage, which is adjusted using this knob, and the cutting rate, which is adjusted by how fast you move the nozzle across the piece. For thinner metals, you're going to want to use a lower amperage. Likewise, for thicker, you'll want to use a higher amperage. Before welding, make sure that the welding table is clear of any flammable or miscellaneous items, such as paper, erasers, binders, or cleaning brushes. When plasma cutting, make sure that your workpiece is away from the tabletop. Welding magnets can be useful for this purpose. Secure the piece to the top of the table using the welding magnets so that the path of your cut does not lead onto the top of the table and cause damage. Take a couple of test passes before actually using the plasma cutter to ensure that you will not run into anything you do not want to cut when cutting your piece. When MIG welding, the position of the MIG gun is very important. Your angle should be a little above 60 degrees, such as seen here. You do not want too shallow of an angle or too steep. Doing so will result in poor penetration and poor dispersion of the weld. When welding normally, keep continuous pressure on the trigger and move in a cursive E pattern along your workpiece. When spot or tack welding, squeeze the trigger for 1 second and apply a quick burst to the workpiece. One of the more useful tools in the welding area are the MIG welder pliers. You can find them in the top drawer of the tool cabinet here. These pliers can be used to pick up hot parts, remove the gas nozzle on the MIG welder for cleaning, or to chip away unwanted weld or slag. You can also use the cutting edge on the inside of these pliers to trim down the stick out of your MIG wire. You should have about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of stick out. The proper PPE for the angle grinder includes sleeves, a face shield, and hearing protection. One of the most important things in getting a clean weld is to start with a clean workpiece. A great way to do this is to use a tool known as an angle grinder, seen here. To use the angle grinder, plug it into one of the wall outlets surrounding the orange rim. Make sure to pick a wall outlet that's close to your workpiece so that you don't tangle yourself in the cord. Let's clean our workpiece. Ensure that the grinding wheel has stopped spinning before placing the angle grinder down on the table. When you're done using the orange room, make sure to clean up properly. The first thing to do is to put your PPE back where you got it. Remember that the sleeves go in the third drawer in the tool cabinet over here. Your face shield and hearing protection goes on the hook over here. Remember that the angle grinders go in the bottom of the tool cabinet, right beneath the sleeves and gloves. Make sure to turn off the air for the plasma cutter. Remember that the valve should be facing this way. Put away your gloves if you have not done so already. Make sure to put away tools such as this thickness gauge. Ensure that the gas for the welder has been turned off by closing the valve on the top and opening the valve on the side. Ensure that both the welder and plasma cutter are turned off. Finally, unplug both the welder and the plasma cutter and sweep up any dust or debris that you have created in the process of working on your project.